June 4th, 2004. A two-story wall of steel and concrete crawls through the streets of Granby, Colorado, police bullets striking it like raindrops before disappearing into the armor. March 6, 1981. A West German courtroom. A grieving mother sits in silence, watching the man who strangled her daughter smile at the jury. The law is supposed to be a shield for the innocent, but sometimes that shield becomes a cage for the victim. When the system protects the predator and crushes the honest man, the social contract burns to ash. Today we look at two people who stopped waiting for a judge. They didn't ask for a trial, they wanted a reckoning. Marvin Heemeyer was a master welder, a man with grease-stained hands who built a quiet life out of metal and grit in Granby, Colorado. He owned a muffler shop. He bothered no one. But in 2001, the Granby Town Council approved the construction of a massive concrete plant right next to Marvin's property, completely cutting off his only access road. This wasn't an accident. It was a calculated move to favor a wealthy, influential local family. Marvin fought back the right way. He attended meetings. He filed petitions. He even bought a Komatsu D355A bulldozer to build a new road himself. The council denied his request. Instead, when the new plant severed Marvin's sewer line, the city fined him $2,500. Marvin paid the fine, but on the back of the check, he wrote one word: cowards. Then, he locked the doors to his shop. For 18 months, Marvin became a ghost. He moved his bulldozer into a hidden garage and blacked out the windows. Working in the dark, he poured concrete between half-inch steel plates, creating an impenetrable shell of armor over a foot thick. He installed external cameras shielded by 3-inch bulletproof plastic, rigged with compressed air nozzles to blow away the debris. To ensure police couldn't climb the machine, he coated the exterior in heavy grease. But the most chilling detail? Marvin didn't build a door. On June 4, 2004, he used a makeshift crane to lower the final 1-ton steel roof over his head. He knew he was never getting out. At 2:15 p.m., the garage wall exploded. A 60-ton beast emerged into the sunlight. Its first target? The concrete plant. The machine crushed the buildings like matchboxes. Then, Marvin turned toward the center of town. He didn't target people, he targeted the institutions that had betrayed him. The town hall, leveled. The former mayor's home, flattened. The police station, destroyed. Hundreds of heavily armed officers swarmed the streets. They fired over 200 rounds at the steel beast. Sergeant Glenn Traynor climbed on top, firing 37 shots looking for a weak point. SWAT teams dropped a flashbang grenade down the exhaust pipe. The machine didn't even flinch. Inside his steel tomb, breathing through a filtered air system, Marvin sat in absolute cold control, watching the destruction of the town on his monitors. 13 buildings and $7 million in damage later, the bulldozer's radiator finally ruptured. The engine sputtered, choked, and died. It took SWAT teams 12 hours, using 3 explosive charges and an industrial cutting torch to breach the armor. When they finally got inside, Marvin Heemeyer was already gone, having taken his own life with a handgun. He didn't kill a single innocent person. He left behind a note that read, "I was always willing to be reasonable, until I had to be unreasonable." Marvin's rebellion was deafening. It shook the earth with roaring diesel and crushing steel. But in 1981, in West Germany, the sound of a failing justice system was met not with the roar of an engine, but with the quiet, shallow breathing of a shattered mother. May 5, 1980. 7-year-old Anna Bachmeier had a small argument with her mother, Marianne. She skipped school and played outside. She never came home. Hours turned into agonizing days. Finally, Anna's body was found in a canal, packed inside a cardboard box. She had been strangled. The killer was 35-year-old Klaus Grabowski. A butcher by trade, Grabowski was a convicted sex offender who had previously undergone chemical castration in prison. But the system allowed him to undergo hormone therapy to reverse the procedure, and they released him back into the public. March 1981. The courtroom in Lübeck, West Germany. This trial was a descent into hell for Marianne. Grabowski's defense team didn't just defend him, they blamed the victim. They claimed the 7-year-old girl tried to blackmail Grabowski. They claimed he suffered a hormonal imbalance. Grabowski sat there, playing the victim for the judge and jury. Sitting in the gallery, something inside Marianne finally snapped. She realized the system was rotting. The killer was going to manipulate his way out of justice. March 6, 1981, the third day of the trial. Marianne walked into the courtroom wearing a long trench coat. Her steps were slow. Her face was completely unreadable. She waited for the judge to take a seat. She watched Grabowski settle into his chair. Slowly, her hand reached into her purse. Her fingers wrapped around the cold, textured grip of a .22 caliber Beretta M70 pistol. There was no visible rage, just cold, absolute finality. She stood up. She raised the weapon, pointing it directly at Grabowski's back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 deafening shots shattered the courtroom silence. 6 bullets struck Grabowski in the back. He didn't even have time to understand what was happening. He slumped violently over the desk, dead before his body hit the floor. Chaos erupted. People screamed. 2 police officers tackled Marianne, wrestling the gun from her grip. But she didn't fight back. She didn't try to run. Pinned to the floor, staring at the lifeless body of her daughter's killer, she simply whispered, "I did it. For her." The West German press exploded. To the letter of the law, she was a cold-blooded murderer. But in the streets, she was a hero. She was a mother who enforced the law where the state had failed its most vulnerable citizen. She was sentenced to 6 years in prison, but under massive public pressure, she was released after serving just 3. Marvin Heemeyer and Marianne Bachmeier were not born criminals. They were ordinary people who wanted to live quietly. They believed in the rules. But when the scales of justice break, when the system exists only to protect itself, people stop waiting. We like to believe we live in a civilized world of law and order, but history reminds us of a brutal truth. When justice is sold to the highest bidder, the victims become the executioners. If everything you loved was taken from you and the law slammed the door in your face, how long would you stay reasonable?